The American economy might look solid on the surface. Strong job numbers, busy airports, people still buying the latest iPhone. But underneath, something feels off. Growth is slowing, debt is rising, and confidence is quietly slipping. It's like a giant machine that still runs, but the gears are grinding louder every day. You can feel it if you pay attention, in the prices at grocery stores, in the tighter credit rules, even in the cautious tone of business news anchors. Right now, economists describe the U.S. economy as resilient but fragile. It's holding up, yes, but not as effortlessly as before. Inflation hasn't fully cooled, and interest rates remain the highest in more than a decade. For ordinary Americans, it means simple things like mortgage payments, small business loans, and even credit card debt are eating into income faster than it grows. That's not a crisis yet, but it's a slow pressure, the kind that quietly squeezes households and discourages expansion. Still, America being America, chaos always breeds opportunity. Every time the economy stumbles, new winners appear, often from places nobody expects. And in this fragile moment, three sectors are not just surviving, but exploding in growth. These industries are rewriting how Americans work, spend, and invest, and they might define what the next decade of the U.S. economy looks like. But before we get there, you need to understand why the old engines are slowing down. Traditional sectors like retail, housing, and manufacturing are struggling. Consumers are spending more carefully, especially middle-class families that used to be the backbone of post-pandemic recovery. Housing demand is cooling because mortgage rates remain around 7%, double what they were just a few years ago. Manufacturing, once boosted by Made in America policies, now faces higher costs due to global supply chain issues and tariffs that keep shifting with politics. Even Wall Street feels uncertain. Investors are chasing safer assets like gold and treasury bonds, not because they're excited, but because they're nervous. And yet, amid all this uncertainty, three sectors are doing something remarkable, growing stronger because of instability, not despite it. They thrive where others pull back. The first one is artificial intelligence, the obvious yet unstoppable wave. In just the last 18 months, AI startups in the United States have raised more than $50 billion in new funding. Companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, and NVIDIA are no longer just tech stories. They're the new backbone of productivity across industries. Every bank, hospital, and logistics company is now racing to integrate AI not as a gimmick, but as a survival tool. It's no longer about the future. It's about who adapts fastest. AI is the rare kind of innovation that grows faster in tough times. Why? Because when labor costs rise and growth slows, automation becomes cheaper than hiring. Companies that once hesitated to replace human roles are now forced to. For example, McDonald's is testing fully automated drive-thrus, and Amazon's warehouses are rolling out robotic systems that work without breaks or complaints. It sounds dystopian, but investors love it because AI is the one area where cutting costs looks like progress. Still, AI is not just about robots or fancy language models. It's a quiet revolution in data, the invisible infrastructure that powers modern life. Every time you shop, scroll, or make a payment, algorithms decide what you see and how you're charged. In a fragile economy, that kind of predictive power is gold. It means companies can forecast demand, reduce waste, and survive downturns better than their old-school competitors. That's why analysts expect the US AI market to double again by 2027, even if GDP barely grows. But technology alone doesn't explain America's resilience. There's something deeper. A shift in how people make a living. While some industries shrink, a new form of independence is rising. Remote work, small digital businesses, and online creators who earn outside traditional systems. These micro-entrepreneurs are building what economists call the decentralized economy, a landscape where anyone with a laptop and skill can compete globally. It started during the pandemic, but it never stopped. Platforms like Etsy, Substack, and Patreon now host millions of creators who generate full-time income without ever forming a company in the old sense. For many Americans, especially younger ones, that flexibility is the only way to stay afloat. The 9-to-5 job with stable benefits is fading, replaced by what some call the portfolio life. Multiple income streams, freelance contracts, and personal branding. And this is where the first quiet boom connects to the second, digital independence. When corporate America tightens budgets, individuals build their own. It's not just a cultural shift, it's a survival instinct. The result is a new middle class of creators, coders, and consultants who rely on technology, not employers, for stability. In a strange twist, economic fragility is making Americans more entrepreneurial. Surveys show that small business formation in the U.S. hit record levels in 2025, with over 5 million new business applications. Many of them are one-person ventures, but collectively they're reshaping how wealth circulates. They may not build factories, but they build freedom. And that's something the current economy can't easily tax or control. The irony is hard to miss. As big corporations struggle with inflation and high interest rates, millions of individuals are quietly building the future from their bedrooms, coffee shops, and co-working spaces. They don't show up in GDP reports yet, but they're the reason the American economy hasn't cracked. That's the first part of the story. The undercurrent beneath the headlines. While Wall Street talks about recession risk, Main Street is reinventing itself. And this reinvention is where the next big opportunities lie. Because in the next section, we'll look deeper into the two other sectors that are quietly exploding: clean energy and healthcare innovation, industries that could not only keep the U.S. economy afloat, but also redefine global growth in the decade ahead. When you think of booming sectors, clean energy doesn't always sound exciting. It's not a flashy app or a viral trend. It's solar panels, batteries, and wires. But look closer, and you'll see one of the biggest economic transformations in modern U.S. history quietly unfolding. While the broader economy slows, clean energy is accelerating like a startup on steroids. Here's the reality. In 2025, clean energy investment in the U.S. hit an all-time high, over $300 billion. That's more than what Americans spent on oil and gas exploration for the first time in decades. From massive solar farms in Texas to wind projects across the Midwest, energy companies are pouring money into projects that used to be seen as too expensive or too early. But now, they're profitable and politically unstoppable. Why? Because the math has flipped. The cost of solar energy has dropped by nearly 90% in the last 10 years, and battery storage technology is finally catching up. It's now cheaper in many states to generate electricity from renewable sources than from coal or even natural gas. Add government incentives and new tax credits from the Inflation Reduction Act, and suddenly clean energy is not just good for the planet, it's good business. For thousands of Americans, this shift means new jobs and new hope. While tech layoffs make headlines, clean energy firms are hiring welders, engineers, truck drivers, and electricians. A recent Department of Energy report showed that more Americans now work in renewable energy than in fossil fuels. Something unthinkable just 5 years ago. These are not Silicon Valley jobs. They're middle class, on the ground, real paycheck roles that rebuild local economies. But it's not only about electricity. Clean energy is merging with technology, turning into a data-driven revolution. Smart grids, AI-based power management, and home automation systems are turning ordinary homes into energy hubs. Tesla, of course, is part of the story, but so are thousands of smaller companies building everything from rooftop panels to next-generation batteries. The race is no longer about who sells the most energy. It's about who controls how it flows. This is the second sector that thrives in economic uncertainty. Because while inflation erodes savings and interest rates squeeze business loans, energy independence creates stability. Every solar panel installed means less dependency on global oil markets or geopolitical drama. In a fragile world, that's priceless. Investors know it. Which is why clean energy ETFs have outperformed the broader stock market for most of 2025. Still, the biggest boom might not even be in energy. It's in the human body. Healthcare in the United States is entering its most radical transformation since modern medicine began. Not because of hospitals or insurance, but because of technology that's finally democratizing health. Imagine walking into a clinic and getting a full genetic scan in under 10 minutes, or wearing a smartwatch that predicts illness before symptoms appear. These are no longer sci-fi dreams. They're daily reality for millions of Americans. The convergence of AI, biotech, and wearable devices is rewriting what it means to stay healthy. Big players like Apple, Google, and Johnson & Johnson are investing billions into personalized healthcare. But what's truly changing the game are the startups, small, agile teams creating breakthroughs in gene editing, mental health apps, telemedicine, and at-home diagnostics. Since 2023, over 40% of new U.S. healthcare patents have come from startups with fewer than 50 employees. That's not evolution, that's revolution. Here's the thing. Healthcare is both a moral need and a financial engine. When the economy slows, people might cut vacations or gadgets, but they won't gamble with their health. That's why the healthcare sector remains one of the most recession-resistant areas of the U.S. economy. Yet the new wave of innovation goes beyond medicine. It's about prevention, prediction, and personalization. AI algorithms now analyze patient data faster than teams of doctors. Robots assist in surgeries with near-perfect precision. And pharmaceutical companies are testing drugs virtually before real-world trials even begin. In the past, this kind of progress took decades. Now it happens in months. For the U.S., this is not just a business story, it's a survival story. An aging population, mental health crises, and rising medical costs are forcing the system to reinvent itself. And amid that chaos, a gold rush of innovation is unfolding. Not in Wall Street towers, but in labs, startups, and even university research hubs across the country. It's ironic, isn't it? The American economy, often portrayed as unstable and divided, still produces waves of reinvention when it's cornered. AI, clean energy, healthcare, 3 different worlds tied by one thread: adaptation. When traditional systems break down, innovation becomes the defense mechanism. So yes, the U.S. economy is fragile right now. Growth is uneven, costs are rising, and uncertainty feels endless. But the same volatility that scares investors is the fuel that drives new industries forward. America's power has never been about stability. It's about reinvention. From the garages of Silicon Valley to the solar fields of Nevada, from a biotech startup in Boston to a teenager launching a health app in her bedroom, The story is repeating itself. When the old ways collapse, the future finds a way to build through the cracks. That's the paradox of the American economy. It bends, it falters, but it doesn't break. And in that tension lies its genius, the ability to turn crisis into creation, fragility into fire. The rest of the world may see America as a slowing giant, but anyone who looks closer knows better. Beneath the surface, the next generation of industries is already here, glowing, growing, and ready to explode.